Here we go. Yes, it's me. It's annoying, isn't it? I just will not go away. But yeah, the heat here is just intense again. We didn't have much going on in our own immediate area, but from what I've seen, it says a lot of the UK had intense thunderstorms the other night. I'm not surprised because we had intense heat one day, and the very next day there was the humidity was bad enough the day before, and the humidity went rocketed right up again, even more so, and it was cloudy. So that night, a lot of the UK had the type of storm where, when it starts, you get the flickering here and there, and you don't hear any, barely hear any thunder, and that can go on for a while, 20 minutes or so. And then you get the downpours, and then that's when the lightning actually starts to come through. It's even worse, and you get the thunder and all that. Did read up on different types of thunderstorms, and for good reasons. They said like they're the type. They're one of the worst types. Is we just get the flickering across the sky. You don't really hear anything. You might hear a vague grumble. That's because it's so high up, I think, within the cloud mass, rather than opposed to lower, closer to the ground. Going on, regardless. Anyway, some areas got kind of flash flooded. We're used to that in the UK. We just play on and just get on with it. Here, it's bright and sunny again. Heat and humidity. This is why the last couple of videos I just screw it. I'm not going to go on camera. While I'm melting like Terminator, the liquid metal guy, and recoalescing when the sun sets. I'm gathering a little bit of data. I was talking to Jerry today. Jerry is one of the helps out sometimes with exploratory minds. And he said, "Oh, are you talking about body language next?" And he thinks he's got some sources of information for me that is a bit more up to date than this. This is a fascinating book, though. But body language, like language, any form of language, actually tends to how do you put it? It tends to just evolve, like spoken words evolve over time. Certain things might not mean the same. Certain things might not be interpreted how they used to be interpreted. By the way, if someone's a bit flirty with you in a relationship and they're doing this and talking to, it's not because they're bored. Some people think, oh, some people misinterpret some of these things. And you see why I got into the flirty thing today. It's been an interesting day. And, doing this and looking you in the eye and when you're talking, they're putting their face is underneath on a pedestal for you to admire it. That's what they're doing there. This, that might not be boredom either. But you've got to look for different combinations, different cues. I really do like this book, and it's helped me get past some of my social anxieties here and there. And for a long time I thought, oh, that means something, this means that, and a number of things I was absolutely correct about, but a number of other things as well I was never really that correct about, till I read this, and my responses, responding to different cues, seem to be in line with the advice and descriptions within this book. These two writers, it was Alan and Barbara Pease, Dr. Alan and Barbara. Pease, that's Pease. They wrote this, they went all over the world, all over, looking at different body language cues in different cultures, because different cultures will have different cues as well. And what's acceptable in one, not so acceptable in another. But because we're so intermingled now, coming and going, although not so much during COVID, but that's increasing again with some restrictions. It's now accepted the rude gesture. I mean, people always did this in the UK, which, believe it or not, actually means fuck you. It means fuck off. Not that. Sorry, the viewer. It's just an example. And, you know, like it says here, a Brit would be abusive doing that. A German would interpret it a different way, and an American would interpret it a different way. That's V for victory, or fuck off, and it just went, you know, all these different things. So it says here, imagine the scene: you're inspecting a house with the possibility, blah blah. A British or American woman would cover her breasts. No, that's the wrong thing. Let me. Sorry, butchered that one. See, it describes that hand gesture anyway in detail, but touch your hand, blah blah. It's so detailed. There's loads of things in here. This, you've eaten something, you go, nice. That's a precision gesture, like saying that was precisely, and you're pinpointing how precise it was, that there's no measurement. It's so precise. You're trying to emphasize the mentality behind that. It's so precise. It's down to perfect accuracy, if you want. But other people in different cultures, I think it's Italian culture, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, that is very abusive. So if you're at an Italian restaurant in Italy, nice, don't do it. Chinese culture, empty your plate, and they think, oh, you're still hungry. Apparently, but that's not in that book. But there's things that have been said like that. I don't know. Some of those might be a myth. Very detailed. I want to get into a great example, actually, if I can get one. So I'm just re-thumbing over this. I read this years ago, a couple of years ago. 83% of communication is non-verbal. It's sight, what we see, body language. Then you get with the tone of voice, the speed of the speaking, and all these other different things as well. The people are so used to communication in its automation that it's very, it's at the threshold. Some of the cues are at the threshold of consciousness, and that's why when somebody says something to you, you have that response. If they're lying to you, perhaps, you think, I don't think that guy's being truthful. But you don't really know why. You just feel intuitively what you're processing there is that body language thing. People going, yes, I totally agree with you. Right? The language, body language, tends to contradict what's really thinking or really going on inside. So they're doing that, they're lying to you. They don't agree with you. They're lying their ass off, right? Interesting about, we're talking about social distancing within the world now. I prefer to call it physical distancing. It's less harsh on the psyche because we can still be social. That if you go into a city, crowded cities, people tend to stand closer to each other naturally before the kind of ruling where you might have ruling that now it's okay 1 meter distance now instead of 2 meter distance in the UK, because we're succeeding somewhat, although there's still peaks here and there. Every time there's a peak, it's in the cities, it's not in the countryside. It's relatively mostly countryside in my area. There's intermittent, I could go a short distance actually and have it, there's a lot of built up area, high-rise flats, offices, and I think that's when your health can be a product of the environment, because if you live in high-rise flats, everyone's touching the balusters if they're using the stairs instead of the lifts, or vice versa. Everyone's touching the buttons in for the lifts. And it's colder environment. It's not out there in the warm air of the summer. In the summer, dry, cold environments, viruses tend to prefer. Humidity combined with heat, and throw some extra ultraviolet light index in there during the summer, and you get a downplay. You get deactivation, along with people doing their due diligence. Wash your hands, damn it. And I've got a mask here somewhere. If I go on public transport, I have to wear a mask. And in this weather, stifling. But I'm not, what's it called, the Karen? I never heard the term really until recently, that some people are doing videos on this because of basic human idiocy. I don't know what the male equivalent would be called. A Brian, a Kevin, a George, whatever, I don't know. And it's just blows my mind when people are that pathetic, actually crying about, oh, I'm going to wear a mask, can't breathe. Yeah, right. But it was absolutely stifling on the bus. But I wore it because it's my due diligence to help out in my area. And, we're in this county and surrounding area. It's almost virtually non-existent from what I can tell. In my own county, there's no cases. Haven't been any cases for some weeks now. This might be the 4th week now. But you just got to do what you got to do. Don't cry about it. The more people who cooperate, the sooner we can get back to more of the privileges in life that people tend to be addicted to. Addiction is a powerful thing. I want to get backtrack really, because I went off body language a little bit when people are doing this. And looking perhaps over to you in a cafe, restaurant. So I went in, got a cold drink. I was cooking, so we got a I had one of these fruit smoothies, beautiful coffee one in the UK. Obviously, I do coffee as well, hence the name. And off I went on my merry way with my cold drink. Had my laptop with me. This laptop I'm using now, actually. I thought I'm gonna go online a bit and sit here, cool off. Phew, I looked over and just the way our eyes caught. I'd say this sounds like a romance there. Our eyes caught across the room, and you know, this lady, very attractive, and I think she found me attractive as well. But how do you approach anyone during COVID? Say, you know, you don't flirt too much, just in case. But she was talking to whoever it was, a friend or maybe her mother. I don't know who they are, but this is a place I have visited regularly, but I haven't seen them there before. And clusters. You need to look for clusters of body language. Now, this isn't as if I was watching her at every move. But because I queued up, I thought, it's interesting. I want to write about body language soon. Perhaps something here can happen in which I'll write about. I won't mention anyone's names. I didn't know the lady anyway. But as she was talking to her, she was sort of like this, going, yeah, so, you know, she talking to her friend. Yeah, interesting that, or whatever she was saying, but she's really looking over, not directly at me, because that would be invasive. At the same time, her whole torso was oriented really in my direction, with legs crossed and foot pointing upwards towards me. Watch people's feet. It's a great body language cue. It really is. The further the end limb is away from the brain, I think more likely it is to reveal what's actually going on inside. People orientate parts of the body in the direction where they want to go. And if they're interested, it's usually, I don't know why, maybe it's the left-handed, right-handed, right-footed, left-footed kind of brain thing, but it seems to be usually, even it says in here and other stuff I looked at, it's the right foot. Usually, most people put the right foot forward. I don't know if I do, because I'm a lefty. Obviously, growing up in a primarily right-handed world, there's no such thing as a true left-hander. Like, you know, if you like them, kind of semi-ambidextrous. Which is interesting. I can write backwards fluently. Yeah, there's a number of left-handers can do that. Never being left-handed or right-handed. You watch people's feet pointing. Now, if you're talking to somebody and the conversation appears to be coming to an end, but you thought about something else, oh, by the way, but if they're like this, arms folded and looking away, we'll sort that out some other time. Perhaps I might say something like that, closing the conversation. Yeah. And feet are pointing away. They're perhaps pointing at the door. Let them go. You're being annoying as fuck for them. They want to go. They want to leave. People in restaurants or cafes, pubs, bars, who are sat near the door, talking, and suddenly, you know, you'll see their conversation come to an end, and they're actually point their feet towards the door, ready to go. If their legs were crossed towards the end of the conversation, they'd start to put feet flat on the ground, perhaps. Nervous, not necessarily nervous, but not as comfortable, not ideally as comfortable as they like to be tend to have their legs crossed underneath the chair, tucked under when they're talking to somebody. Confident, they're flat on the ground. Put your feet flat on the ground right now if you're sat in a chair. If I personally, I think that feels relaxing and helps you feel a bit more confident. Something else I notice whenever there's a potential flirt, because I did offer some cues back, and I think it appeared to work because she did a number of other things. So I'm going to write about this. This is a little, kind of a little shy to mention it, but I shouldn't be. Because I don't want it to sound like, oh, this guy's a pervy flirt or whatever. It's just one of those things. And I haven't seen that for a while because, I haven't been out regularly for a while because you go back through the months, COVID peaking and all this. Very boring time, not being able to have these pleasures of life, just enjoying a different environment, having a drink in a bar, cafe, whichever. Anyway, the number of cues, clusters, cues together. I mean, if they was just to do that in your direction on its own, wouldn't necessarily be flirty. Couples, particularly women, tend to do this. Show the wrist, expose the wrist. It's a delicate area. It's a very feminine sort of thing. They don't do this deliberately. It's just it's an unconscious thing. Bouncing the pointing foot as well. You see, what I did was, I was reading a book, and on the laptop I orientated myself a little bit towards her, and she did a bit of a shuffle in kind, in the same way. Our bodies, our torsos were pointing towards each other, but she was like twisted a little bit, talking towards her friend. And some of this is obvious. You're pointing this way. You probably want, you're looking this way. You're probably interested in what is in this direction or whatever. So long story short, I wrote phone number on a small bit of pad, stuck it on the table after I left. But there's another thing: is her feet. You could see the closing conversation, and they were very agreeing. And suddenly she sat back a bit, quite relaxed, and her feet went crossed and flat on the floor. This is not something. I'm making it sound like I've observed every single move. I would just tap away and just occasionally look, and then a little bit of an experiment on my behalf, because this does fascinate me, because it's mostly, again, exploring minds. There's a word in their mind, and I'm interested in how we do these things unconsciously. Although when I started exploring minds, it wasn't really about the mind as per se, but I'm interested in that. Her feet were flat on the ground. She looked towards the door and nodded and carried on talking. The whole thing stopped going. She oriented her torso towards her friend. So I stopped, and you could tell it wasn't like, oh, he's flirting back, I've had enough. It was just a genuine relax. Her feet were flat on the floor. Now, if she was nervous, she might put her feet, let's say I was one of those nutters who would take it too far and just stare at, just creepy guys. I can imagine Jason Smith doing something like crosses underneath a chair. You know, she would have crossed her feet under the chair if she was uncomfortable. Now it's flat on the ground. So time was going on. I needed to catch my bus home. I thought, I'll pack stuff up. I don't know, but it seems like she was like continuing the conversation until I left. I think a conversation with a friend. I don't know. I don't know enough about the language, body language, on that side of things yet. Again, I don't want this to sound like, oh, here I am observing these two people like some kind of cold-hearted experiment, watching every single move. It wasn't like that, because you only have to look over a little bit once you've read some of this. You only have to glance over occasionally to understand what's going on with a cluster of body language cues. And yeah, of course I enjoy being flirted at, and I enjoy flirting back. Why not? Who doesn't? You know, if they find the person doing it attractive. And you know, there's details I want to write about this. Again, I'm not going to write about locations, people. I do write about this subject. You know, I'm not going to write in terms of, hey, I was in this specific place, specific time, because that could cause issues, and I don't want it to be that sharp, that pinpointed. And certainly, I'm not going to dox myself, telling everyone exactly where I was, when I was, and why I was there. I came in just to cool off, but the heat was rising actually inside as well. Fans blowing, but it's just moving hot air around. Regardless, that was interesting today, and it was fun. I like to flirt in that way. I just it's one of those things. And again, who doesn't with somebody? Excuse me. With somebody they find attractive, right? Peace out. Thanks for watching. I'll look forward to doing another video soon. Cheers, bye.